Hey YouTube, Ethan here. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to deal with the Gravitas shipping container, or otherwise known as the Mysterious Hermit story trait in Oxygen Not Included. The Gravitas shipping container, or the Mysterious Hermit, is essentially a small story trait that is optional to complete during your playthrough that allows you to unlock a special duplicant for your colony named Jorge. Jorge can be unlocked at any point in the game as long as you're able to satisfy the criteria for getting him to come out of the Gravitas building, which can be quite difficult because of some of the challenges you'll face with the requirements, even if you happen to be in the mid-game portion of your playthrough. But we're going to take a look at all these requirements and go over exactly how you can get Jorge unlocked and add him to your colony. The main reason why you would want to unlock Jorge is because he has a unique positive trait called Charismatic, which can trigger an overjoyed response of other duplicants when they talk to him. This makes Jorge very helpful for settling on other asteroids where your duplicants' morales are going to be quite low. Jorge will be able to give them the overjoyed response once they talk to the other duplicants on that asteroid. There's some other unique features about Jorge, and we're going to go over all of them once we get to the stage in the video where we unlock him. This demonstration will be done on my sandbox asteroid that I use for most of the tutorials here on my channel. This is going to help me speed up the process and show you how to do this quicker. Obviously, when you do this in-game without sandbox mode turned on, it'll be a little bit more complicated because of some of the requirements that you'll have to meet. In order to find Jorge during your playthrough, you have to have him enabled in the settings menu before you start your colony. So when you're starting your new game, you want to head into the settings before you launch your colony. Head over to story traits and make sure that the Mysterious Hermit is enabled before you press start game. As you can see, for me, it was already enabled by default. However, if you're the type of person that likes to use custom coordinates that you get from one of your friends or a website, such as I do right here, the Mysterious Hermit trait will be disabled by default in this case, so you're going to have to manually enable it in order to have Jorge unlocked. This is all that you need to do to have him spawn inside your asteroid somewhere. The next step will be starting the game and going out to look for him. Jorge is not very hard to find, because his shipping container that he lives in is quite large and very hard to miss. Once you find the container that he lives in, click on it, and you'll be prompted with an introduction to Jorge. It says, "An unfamiliar building has been discovered in my colony. There's movement inside, but whoever the inhabitant is, they seem wary of us. If I can convince them that we mean no harm, we could very well end up with a fresh recruit and a useful new building." We'll find out just how useful that building is later on. Right now, we have to focus on how to get into this building. As you can see in the far right corner of our screen, we were prompted with a new option once we click on the building. It's called Knock Knock. Clicking the Knock Knock button will send an errand to one of the duplicants to knock on the door and to see what's inside. Obviously, right now, this is unreachable by all of my duplicants, so I have to make it accessible for them before I can continue any farther. Obviously, you will not find it with insulated tiles surrounding it, and it's not necessary to enclose it in insulated tiles after finding it. This is something I did so I wouldn't have any spills or anything else that would ruin this building for future use. So we've given the duplicants access to get to the Gravitas shipping container, and now we're just waiting on Harold to get here in order to knock on the door. And here he comes. Once the Knock Knock achievement pops up, click on it and you'll continue on to the next step. Once we've woken up Jorge from the sleeping container, we're given 3 separate tasks in order to get Jorge to come out of his container and join our colony. The first one is welcome dinner. We have to deliver 3 unique foods to his mailbox, with the quality of each of them being a +4 or greater. There's Nice Neighborhood, which is establishing a decor of 120 or higher in the surrounding area of this building. Luckily for us, the game tells us right away what the current decor is. Right now it's at 36.8. So we have a basis of what we have to improve and how much we have to improve it to get to our goal of 120. Finally, on the grid, which is connecting this building to power long enough to cheer up the occupant. We have to have them connected for a total of 300 seconds, which is not very hard to do. Whenever I'm dealing with requirements in a game, I like to start with the easiest ones first. In this case, I think that's turning on the power. So let's run some power wire to Jorge. Keep in mind that the power wires that you run also contribute to the decor in the surrounding area. So it may make more sense to run wires that are going to have a positive impact on decor rather than negative ones. If you use conductive wire out of gold, you're going to have a +50 effect. So it's definitely worth selecting the right type of wire and the right type of material for your wire, so it makes it easier to get the decor requirement out of the way. I think objectively the best wire to use is going to be conductive wire, which has a neutral effect on decor, and a +20 or a +50% depending on the material that you choose to build it with. Since refined gold is quite common, that's what I'm going to build this conductive wire out of. Of course, in my case, I need a transformer because I don't have anything nearby. And once he's connected to power, the lights are going to light up on his building. He's going to give you a little thumbs up. And then you just wait for the time to get to 0 to get this requirement complete. We're starting at a base point of 36.8 decor, and we're trying to get to 120. The easiest way to increase decor is to build the surrounding area of the container with materials that are giving a positive or, at the very least, a neutral decor bonus. You don't want anything that's taking away decor because it's going to make it harder for you to achieve the 120 decor rating. This is as easy as flipping through all of the available options that you have to build any sort of building with. For example, having the wood tile gives you plus 15 decor, a metal tile gives you plus 15 decor, a window tile gives you plus 5, plastic also gives you plus 5. You're obviously going to build depending on what materials you have available to you. Something like a wood tile might be very easy to get if you're on an asteroid that has many arbor trees and you've been harvesting them for quite a while. You could also use the carpeted tile because it gives you a whopping plus 20 decor for a 4 tile radius, and you can use common materials such as sandstone, igneous rock, granite, which also gives you a decor bonus in order to build it. Now, metal tile also gives us a decor, but we're going to change this over to carpeted tile that's built out of granite, and we're going to see just how much of an effect that has from changing it from metal tile to granite carpeted tile. So don't forget that we started at around 38 decor, and just laying down the carpeted tile has already given us 101. We're already 84% of the way there, and we've barely done anything. Carpeted tile gives you a massive boost, and in my opinion, it's the easiest one to build because of the availability of material. If you build one more wall of carpeted tile right next to the container, you'll automatically achieve the nice neighborhood bonus by getting the decor value beyond 120. This is literally all it takes. And if we take a look at our decor overlay, we can see just how much impact the carpeted tile is having. This is way easier than trying to build statues, paintings, and providing lighting for the container in the surrounding areas. Basically, all I've done here is take away everything that is contributing negatively to decor and replaced it with carpeted tile built out of granite. Success. All this new excellent decor is really making the Hermit feel at home. He scrawled a thank you note on the back of an old holiday card. While we wait for the countdown timer to reach 0 on the power, we can work on getting good food to his mailbox. Delivering food is what some people have the most trouble with. This is because it's not done by clicking on the container itself. You actually have to click on the mailbox in order to deliver the food. The food that you currently have available or that you've currently unlocked in the past will show up on this menu here, and you simply select it, and one of your duplicants will be sent an errand in order to deliver the food to the mailbox. Now, I'm feeding this colony with stuffed berries, so I already have this available. So now I'm going to need to find 2 more unique foods that are a +4 quality or higher to be delivered to the mailbox. Here comes Askin with the stuffed berry, and the Hermit will go ahead and enjoy the stuffed berry. This is undoubtedly the most difficult step because nothing that you make on the electric grill will have a +4 rating or higher. Even things like the pancakes, the grub fruit, barbecue, they only have a +3 rating of quality, which is good enough for your duplicants, but it's apparently not good enough for George. In order to make anything that George is going to like, you're going to need to unlock the gas range and have a reliable source of natural gas hooked up to the gas range in order to cook the foods that George is going to like. There are certain foods that you can cook that are objectively easier to make than the others. For example, something like stuffed berry needs gristleberry and pinch of pepper nuts. The gristleberry is quite easy because most colonies are already starting with bristle blossoms as their main source of food. So as long as you still have some bristle blossom plants left from your early game to early mid-game stage, this requirement is going to be very easy to fulfill. Pinch of pepper plants can usually be found throughout your asteroid if you're playing on the Terra map. They'll spawn in random locations like this, and you can reach the pinch of pepper plant seed in order to plant them domestically, or you can simply harvest a pinch of pepper plant that is growing in the wild. Because you only need to make 3 types of food, I suggest starting with the stuffed berry because of how easy it is. The next easiest one that you may already have available is the surf and turf. The surf and turf is a barbecue mixture with cooked seafood. This is another one that's very easy. Most players will have a hatch ranch or a Dreco ranch set up at some point, so barbecue will be already their main source of food in the early or mid-game stage of their playthrough. However, if you don't have barbecue as your main source of food, you can most likely find critters in the wild that you can turn into barbecue. And the cooked seafood is quite easy as well, because there are plenty of pacus around swimming in the wild that you can get the cooked seafood from. Pacus are also something that you can have within your base in your main water basin that can just swim around that you don't have to pay any attention to, that will eventually die off due to aging and lay eggs to hatch more pacus in the future. You can pretty much have pacus throughout your entire playthrough until you reach the endgame without ever tending to them. The third one that I think is the easiest is the pepper bread. If you've already made the stuffed berry with the pinch of pepper nut, then you already have access to the pinch of pepper nuts, and that's one requirement that you don't need to find. The sleet wheat grains are something that you can usually find in excess inside of your cold biomes on your asteroid. Even if you've never breached these cold parts of your asteroid, you can usually find enough of these in high quantities so you can build the pepper bread right away. Because I'm in sandbox mode, I'm just going to spawn the ingredients and have my duplicants make 1 of each in order to speed things up. But here's a tip. If you're going to go through all the trouble of making these high quality items that you don't have an excessive amounts of material of in order to make more, you want to make sure that your duplicants don't eat them by mistake after you've already cooked them. For example, if you're going to use surf and turf as a food that you're going to deliver to George, make sure that none of your duplicants have access to eat the surf and turf by unchecking that from the consumable tab in your playthrough. Alternatively, you can just click the surf and turf icon and you can enable all or disable all of your duplicants from eating it. You can turn this back on for all your duplicants once you've cooked the food and delivered it to George. The surf and turf is cooked, so I'm going to select it, and Ashton will deliver their surf and turf to the mailbox. And here he comes. Once it is delivered, George is going to eat it, and we're nearly there at 67%. Just one more food to go. We've got the pepper bread completed, and we're going to wait for Max to deliver it. And here he comes. Then we get a prompt about the hermit loving his food again, and the progress for the welcome dinner is complete. It says that the duplicants have found what appears to be a page from an old logbook tucked behind the mailbox. It gives us some more insight of the lore and Oxygen Not Included. All we have left is for the countdown timer for the power to hit 0, and then we've unlocked the mysterious hermit. Once the power requirements have been fulfilled, let's go ahead and unlock George. Story trait complete, Mysterious Hermit. My sweet duplicant's effort have paid off. Our reclusive neighbor has agreed to join the colony. The only keepsake he insists on bringing with him is his toolbox, which, while rusty, seems to be of great sentimental value. Now that he'll be living among us, his former home can be deconstructed or repurposed as storage. After that, George becomes available to click on and we can explore his stats. I've already made George his own private bedroom. This is not the ideal location that I wanted to make it, but I will reconsider the location later on. George leaves his rusty toolbox behind. Once you click on it, it says, on the inside of the lid, someone used a screwdriver to carve a drawing of a group of smiling duplicants gathering around a massive crater. It gives you plus 15 decor, so if you put it somewhere within your colony, you're going to get a decor bonus. After George leaves the Gravitas shipping container, it can be used as storage. You can keep the lights on if you would like. Alternatively, you can deconstruct it if it's in your way. Now that we've unlocked George, we can take a look at his bio. His unique trait, Charismatic, is going to give you a chance to give an overjoyed response to a duplicant that George talks to. My George came with the bottomless stomach trait, which is an undesirable trait if you have a food shortage within your colony. This is definitely not a trait that you would want if you're just starting a colony and you're selecting your duplicants for the first time. Obviously, it becomes easier to manage once your colony is more well established and you have an excessive amounts of food. If you're totally unhappy with the trait that George got, for example, the bottomless stomach, you can save scrub and reload before George is fully unlocked, and you can re-roll the traits that George comes with. I'm not going to judge anyone for doing this. It's a single player game that you're playing on your own, so it's not a big deal if you want to use that technique in order to get a more desirable trait for George. And as a secondary tip, you can also do this for duplicants coming out of the printing pod. If you save before you click on the printing pod when you have a recruitment available, and if you don't like the options that you're given, you can simply reload and you'll get completely new duplicants with completely new traits. You'll also notice that George comes with 7 in all attributes right from the start, and he gets the appropriate boosts from his traits that he's also spawning with. Beyond this, there's not much else to George. He's definitely not an overpowered character by any means. He's just something fun that you can go for during your mid or late game phase of your playthrough. He's definitely worth unlocking if you've never been to an asteroid before that you're trying to settle, because he can give a random overjoyed response to duplicants on an asteroid that would otherwise have very little decor in order to boost their morale. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to unlock the Mysterious Hermit. I love the story traits and Oxygen Not Included, and I'm going to cover each one of them in detail just like I did with this one, so stick around for more videos. If you enjoyed this or you were able to learn something, please leave a rating on the video and let me know down in the comments if you ever go for George or try to unlock him early. What are your favorite use cases for George? Or do you just like to have him part of your colony because he's a unique duplicant? Let me know down below. And until next time, this is Ethan, and I'll talk to you later.